You mean the one that gets fired for the panties?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the car sex.
The car sex. I think he gets away scot-free, yes.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello.
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
Well, you're trying to seduce me, aren't you, Mrs. Robinson?
Mm-hmm. Barrett has his legs all, wrapped up on the screen there. It's amazing.
By the way, I caught that a little bit ago. That movie is sexy.
Yeah.
The Graduate?
Dude.
Yeah.
Anne Bancroft is I would have been seduced by her.
I mean, she is absolutely, yeah, exactly. I mean, she's mesmerizing in that
What's
role.
funny, though, is that I think she's only like 6 years older than Dustin Hoffman in real life in that movie.
That's hilarious. That's the one scene where they're laying in bed and he's having doubts and everything, and he's getting all pissed off at her, and they're both naked, and she's laying in bed, and he gets up and he gets in a huff, and he's like, "Why are you doing this to me?" and everything, and he gets all dressed, and he's like, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing this," and she basically says like a couple of things, and he starts to get undressed again.
Yeah. We are going to finish up our best movie of the 2010 decade. We are in our final four, and something, there's going to be only one winner, unfortunately. That's just the way these things go. And man, I don't know if we could have picked two harder matchups to get to the championship, and the championship itself is going to be very difficult, no matter what happens.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
We start on the left side of the bracket with the number 1 seed, Mad Max Fury Road, and the 2 seed, The Martian.
Oh, Jesus. I feel like I want to take out a Bugs Bunny hammer and doink myself on the head and just wake up when all this is over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mad Martian Fury Road.
These movies have similar locales.
That's true.
They're on different planets. Man, the thing about Mad Max Fury Road and that water stuff, that's getting real scary, man. That's like something that I think could actually happen. When you think about The Big Short and that Christian Bale character at the end is investing in water, and it's basically like the very end of that movie, it says this is what he's investing in now. It's, and I looked that up, and it's basically like, investing in stuff that, I don't know, stuff that purifies the water, stuff that the sources of the water, all those type of things. That's things he's kind of investing in. Yeah, I just think about that type of thing, how water is just like this commodity in this world, man. Can you imagine living in the...
Emerton Joe is like hoarding the water, and that's the currency. It's not oil like it was, or gas, or whatever it was, like it was in the original ones. It's he releases the water every interval, and everybody gets around and gets whatever they get. It's like
just
a bread
imagine that
water
being like a whole bunch of cash or something. It's the same deal that he's dumping on those people. It's like those
money.
Yeah, those old game shows where the people are in the booth and the money is flying all around them and shit. That's basically what that is. It's just with water, because and he even says, don't go overboard on this stuff. This is you can get addicted to this kind of thing or whatever. Like there's thanks a lot, asshole, for giving me the water. And then he's like, well, you can't get addicted. This is I'm being really gracious to you right now and everything. I mean, good God, what a fucking asshole. Like that doesn't need to be said, but like Jesus, like the level of evil that this guy has in him is it's one of the it's probably one of the biggest villains of all time, really, when you think about it. Just think about what he's doing to these people.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, he's like got a harem, and he's got all the water he wants in the world, and he's got a bunch of slaves working for him. And, the people down there, the kids.
All his kids that become soldiers and whatnot. He's an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't need to be said. It's just that it's when you really step back from it, it's got, God, this guy is like maybe one of the worst characters we've ever seen.
What is the deal with his Bane mask? Like, why does he need that? Is it just a breathing device?
Yeah, my guess is that he's got some sort of scarring or something like that makes him look less than desirable or whatever.
But it helps in some way because that's how they kill him, right? Is taking off the mask.
Oh yeah, he may have some oxygen or something. I can't remember.
Okay,
I think that might be right. But the level of evil in this guy is unbelievable. God damn it, man! These two movies. So anything else about The Martian that we need to say?
No, I mean, I think this will largely be a quick voting process. It's going to be painful, but we've said so much about all these movies. I mean, I have watched The Martian since the last time we voted.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, but I probably watched that movie once every couple of weeks anyway.
What makes it so easy? Is it just the colors and the dialogue and the performances? What makes it so rewatchable? What makes the Nice Guys we've talked about as being one of the most rewatchable of the bracket. The Big Short is rewatchable. What makes this movie so rewatchable? Mad Max Fury Road is rewatchable, obviously, but it's also stressful, right? Like it's not like you've got to buckle in for that. With The Martian, what you've done, Jeremy, probably a million times, is put on the background, attune to it whenever you want to, tune in for stretches that but it's just so easy to watch.
Yeah, there's very little fat in that script. There's in terms of what they scripted, what they shot, and how they edited it down, it's nearly the structure of the film is almost perfect. And I think that's what you're getting at, is that it's so rewatchable because 20 minutes goes by, like that.
Yeah.
Because they make all the parts of it so engaging, whether they're back on Earth and we're seeing some of the science stuff at work there, or it's on Mars and we're listening to Watney's, POV or his sarcasm. It's just, I don't know why Ridley Scott can't do this every time out, but maybe he doesn't have Drew Goddard and Matt Damon every time out.
Yeah, the ingredients for this are so different from what he's had in the past. One thing we haven't talked too much about The Martian on, we've discussed the people down on the ground like Jeff Daniels and Chiwetel Ejiofor and all those guys. We've discussed a lot of Matt Damon. We haven't really discussed much about that crew. Jessica Chastain, Michael Pena is like steal scenes with some of the stuff he says in that. I love the when they finally get to talk to him and they start typing back and forth. It's hilarious. And it's funny too to watch Jessica Chastain because she tolerates that type of thing, even though she's very tired of it. You can tell that she's just tired of it, and she doesn't feel like this is an appropriate time to tell Watney that he's not needed or he's unimportant or any of that type of thing. But there's something in her performance too. But those two especially, I kind of feel like Kate Mara and Bucky and
Bucky.
And the Russian
Vogel.
guy.
And the Russian guy are kind of...
He's German.
Oh, he's German. Sorry.
I think that those guys kind of fall in the background a little bit. They're not given much to do, really. But in a movie that's got so many characters, so many things to do, obviously you need to have some people in there that don't have much to contribute. Well,
it's interesting. That is probably the set piece that we spend the least amount of time on, right? I mean, besides them making the decision to say, which happens understandably, with Jessica Chastain's character, it happens very quickly of like, all right, we're going to spend 3 more years in space or whatever it is. You know, the focus is on the JPL and on NASA and on Mars. But yeah, you're right. That whole cast sings, and it's weird that relationship with Bucky and Kate Mara kind of comes out of nowhere a little bit, but it's also very believable, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's more fleshed out in the book. It's still a pretty minor subplot, but yeah, when they even included her kissing his helmet as he goes out on right before the whatever, she says, be safe out there in space, and then she kisses his helmet. That's pretty much the only relationship hint. And I was surprised they put that in there since they hadn't put anything else in there about it at all.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Chastain, it deserves a lot of credit, and Michael Pena for sure. And then what I love is in the sort of the ending when we're seeing where everybody's at now, and Chastain is, getting off the elliptical and drinking coffee with her husband, watching the launch, and then it cuts and Michael Pena's on the next launch. He's like, he couldn't get enough of space. Like his wife was so mad when he decided to do the slingshot. She was like, 3 more years, and now he's come back to Earth and he's on the next mission because he can't.
That discussion that you were talking about with Chastain talking to the crew about. I love that scene too. She makes it unanimous. It has to be unanimous for all of them. She tells them the risks, that, this is going to add 3 years to our mission. If anything happens, we're going to be dead. And also we're strictly going against NASA's orders. 2 of us are military and will probably be court-martialed.
Yeah.
And even if everything goes right, we're going to come back. They're never going to send us into space again.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's another theme of this movie is that the people deciding to go back and save him aren't doing this lightly. They are saying to themselves, oh, the biggest thing that's going to happen is I don't get to go to space anymore. Well, I've been in space for 5 years at that point. So that's enough space for anybody.
God, imagine that, man. We're all kind of freaking out, sitting at home for 2-3 months. And these guys are adding 3 years.
Well, and these guys are fictional, but think about the real life astronauts that have been up on the space station for like a year already. And like, how do they do that? Like, it's opened my eyes the last few weeks for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, what are we going to pick?
Martian.
Oh, wow. That was easy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is not even.
I was gonna go first and do it slowly. And I wasn't even looking at that screen, but I heard Barrett say Martian, and instinctively I wanted to close the lid so there was no escaping for Mad Max, and it just came out of my mouth.
This is going to be a sweep, surprisingly.
Wow.
I was picking Martian as well. Really, honestly, this is much harder of a decision than we've made it, I think, because both of these movies are excellent. Both of these movies, every time we say goodbye to one movie, it sounds like we're saying goodbye to that movie forever. We're never going to watch it. It's no good anymore. But that's just not the way that is. It's just, but you put it up against these two going up against each other. That's, it's just a tough matchup for Mad Max Fury Road, which has a lot going for it, but it doesn't have as much going for it as The Martian does.
Mm-hmm.
The Martian will be in the championship against the winner of the 8 seed Parasite and the number 1 seed Ex Machina. Parasite was a sort of surprise Final Four, although in our fan poll, it got to Final Four as well.
Oh yeah. Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
These are 2 very house-based movies. Which house would you want to live in? Because they're both very, very cool houses.
I want the Parasite house. Actually, wait. I want the Ex Machina house, if only for the thousands of acres between me and the rest of mankind.
My God, dude. I think we talked about that in like the first matchup that Ex Machina had, where, and now that I've recently seen it, because there's a point where Donald Gleason's in the helicopter and he goes, so when do you think we'll be getting to the property? He goes, we've been flying over the property for 2 hours. You just got to think about how many miles of property that must be to be in a helicopter flying over it for 2 hours.
Imagine being the guys that had to build that fucking house and haul all that like building equipment, all those miles. Like, Jesus.
Dude, I've been watching every once in a while, like on DIY Network or something like that, there will be one of these like remote cabin builders shows, like in Alaska and like northern Canada and stuff like that, where it's only like there's only like 3 weeks out of the year that they can build where it's nice. And even there it's barely tolerable. But those 3 weeks are so beautiful that they do. And the methods that they get these things into is crazy.
Huh.
In the behind the scenes on Ex Machina, they were looking for the locations, and Alex Garland was in a helicopter, and they were in Norway, and they went over this property, and he's like, that's one that we could look at. Basically, it's one property in one place, and it's another property like a mile away from it, and they've combined those to look like they're close together, essentially.
Really?
Yeah, and they even made it where, certain places in one building look like they naturally flow into the other building from the inside.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like a lot of the...
That's so weird. I would want to see like a Room 237 type of map of what that house actually looks like. They show
it in the behind the scenes. They show they show the outside of both buildings. It's just that one of them is one part of it is in this one spot and another one is way down the other way. So
I'm just wondering how they relatively within the movie fit into each other, like which part flows into one part, because it seems very segmented. You've got the living quarters, and then you've got the bedroom quarters, and then you've got the robot quarters, and then you got the kitchen and all that stuff. Like,
if there was one thing in that behind the scenes that I wish they had done is to show them, like a screen by screen, and they show house 1 going into house 2.
Yeah.
Something like that. It may have not have been that seamless. They just may have made it look like that, where I don't think there's like any point where a camera moves from one house and ends up in the second house or anything like that. But, and then like all the other stuff is in a studio at Pinewood, all that below ground stuff. So yeah, it's amazing how they made all that. Yeah, I would probably do the Ex Machina house.
Was the waterfall and all that stuff, was that in the same location, like the Norway location?
I'm assuming it was in Norway. I don't know where it is relative to the houses though. But that is a unique place that I would love to visit someday. So what do we have left to say about Parasite or Ex Machina?
Well, I think I've said this already, but that Ramdam dish in Parasite sure is easy to make, and whether or not you have a fancy steak to put in it, it's tasty. And
I'm going to have to do this at some point.
My wife and I have made it probably once a week for the last, 6 or 7 weeks, and we've tried all sorts of different add-ins. Like last week, she put a bunch of spinach and mushrooms in hers. And,
oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, but it's good stuff. That has nothing to do with the movie. But
hey, I got a question about the one guy. So we figure out what happens to the housekeeper after she gets shit canned. What happens to the driver? Do we know?
Fuck him. No,
is he the only one that just gets away scot-free from all this stuff?
I think so. You mean the one that gets fired for the panties?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the car sex.
I think he gets away scot-free, yes.
Okay, so he's the only one that just kind of disappears.
Well, yeah, I mean, before the housekeeper, everything is there's no hang up to that, but the housekeeper obviously has the hang up of her husband lives down in the depths of the house.
Yeah.
And And I imagine she spends the next 2 or 3 days like, how am I going to go and explain that I need to get back in the house and get down there and get him out without anybody knowing and everything?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I wonder if she's like keeping an eye on the house and waiting for them, or she knows their schedule and she knows that they're going to be out of town and camping or whatever.
Yeah.
And she just says, okay, even though it's pouring rain right now, I'm going to show up and figure out what's going on.
By the way, I'm even more confident now of my interpretation in Parasite of the fact that the first shot is those shoes and the people, you know, they're all living underneath those shoes, and and basically they're beneath people's feet. They're, you know, that's how low they are and everything. Because in Snowpiercer, which I saw over the weekend again,
be a shoe.
Yeah, exactly. There's the Tilda Swinton speech where she's saying that, you know, I'm the top of the head and you guys are the shoes or whatever. I'm the hat and you're the shoes. It goes a long way of you know, sort of branching that theme out and everything. Ooh. And Snowpiercer has a lot of this class issue stuff going on in it as well. I mean, they're not the same movie, Snowpiercer and Parasite, obviously, but there's a lot of the same type of themes in it for sure.
Yeah, and I keep hearing on social media that some of his other movies that I haven't seen yet also have these same themes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm very curious to dive further into his work moving forward.
Yeah. We have a great Final Four director crew here too. George Miller, Ridley Scott, Bong Joon-ho, and Alex Garland. That's
pretty good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Out of these two, what are we picking?
Who wants
Guys,
to go first?
I'm going to pick Ex Machina.
I'm picking Parasite.
You're picking Parasite over Ex Machina.
I am.
That movie has your heart.
That movie has my brain's heart, if that makes sense.
A movie like Her, that's a really good way to say it.
A movie like Her had my heart. A movie like Ex Machina has my brain. But Parasite has my brain's heart. And, I can see myself watching Parasite dozens of times in the future. And I can see myself watching Ex Machina several times in the future. Really, it's a hair, it's paper thin. I'm going to keep talking, trying to convince Barrett to go Parasite, even though I don't.
Here's the thing. I've voted against Parasite, I think, a couple of times at this point. But I've come around because I've watched different scenes, and I've watched it with different eyes too. After you guys have talked about it in different ways, I told Chris as soon as we walked out of this, we saw this when it came to town, and I told you this is a movie that I'm going to have to wrap my head around. I know I love it, but I don't know exactly why I love it so much, and I think I love it for like 30 different ways. Many of which you guys have talked about. Ex Machina.
Ex Machina moves on to the championship against The Martian.
You can't flip me off with a pen.
I'm flipping you off with my fictional middle finger of ink.
Look, I don't want Parasite to be gone either. I think technically any of these four movies could be the winner, and I wouldn't be upset about any of them being in there. And then you have to I don't know how anybody is so sure when it comes to matchups like this. Yeah. I mean, the Martian, we did that pretty easily. I mean, but still, when you put them up, you put those two movies up together, you're like, I mean, that's just that you just go on your first blush a lot of times. Unfortunately, it's like there's no real math here to tell one way or the other why one movie seems better.
I think I used the rationale that Jeremy did in that I have and will watch Ex Machina dozens of times, and I'll watch Parasite probably a few times less than that, even though I love Parasite.
Yeah. Okay, on the championship. So we have and you and you and you. On the championship, we have the ability to chat on our app here, our Zencaster app. And I'm wondering if we can all load in our pick and then we can announce the winner from that.
Interesting.
Agreeable.
You want us to do this now, or we don't have anything else to discuss, do we?
No, I don't think so. So what I'm saying is everybody type, but don't press return yet. Shit.
Oh. It's like, don't click off.
I'm sorry. I love you.
Okay, so this is still in doubt, and we're gonna go 3, 2, 1. When I say 1, we're gonna press return, Barrett.
Okay, hang on 1 second. 'Cause I actually am still thinking about this.
Don't press return. Like I just literally did. Like, oh, I'm such an idiot.
When did Ex Machina come out? 2015?
2014, I think.
So these are both mid-decade movies. We've had time to live with both of them for a long time.
Yes.
We have made an informed decision for sure.
I would say so. So,
have you already typed yours in, Chris?
I've typed mine in. I'm hovering over the enter key, and when I say 3, 2, 1,
okay, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
Talk about razor thin, man.
So Barrett and Jeremy both went The Martian. I went Ex Machina. The winner of the best of the decade is The Martian.
The Martian!
Oh, man.
I'm going to watch it tonight to celebrate.
That would have been even better if I hadn't voted early. Like, I see what you're going for now, and I apologize for ruining it.
That's okay. I should have said right off the bat, don't press return. But either way, we still had some suspense there. If both you and Barrett had gone in, I would have said, fuck it, let's start this over and just say what we want, and then whatever. But
Whiplash.
The Martian takes it over Ex Machina. It's hard to vote against The Martian, right? It's just the movie is solid in every single way. Ex Machina is too. I think Parasite is as well. I think Mad Max Fury Road might be the weakest of the four. Strangely enough.
Yeah, you know what tipped it for me is that one has a dystopic ending, and I guess I'm just done with bad news right now.
Yeah.
And one has an exhilarating ending that I always get suspenseful and ecstatic for. And I need that, and I am going to go back to that many, many times in times of need. So I think that's it. They're very, very close, though.
Yeah, for sure. So The Martian. And now, at the beginning of all of this, I thought that it had a really good chance of winning the whole thing. I thought that there were other movies that would maybe get into the final four. Like I thought maybe Social Network would get there. Parasite was just such a bulldozer on that one. The one question I wanted to ask you guys is, now that we have collectively come up with a winner, is this your individual favorite movie of the decade?
Oh, that's a good question, because by nature of this exercise, it's not necessarily the case, right? Automatically.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you that my movie all the way up until the end got there. Ex Machina is my favorite of the decade. It just everything about it I love. So
I mean, mine would be probably Roma, but Martian would be like a 1A, 1B situation.
I think that's the first time I've ever voted against The Martian was in the championship. And
I think so.
Ex Machina, I did pick. I think I picked that every single time. If I didn't, then I'm a fucking liar about Ex Machina being my pick.
You want to know how pitiful I am? My shit went out in the first round. My favorite probably is The Master.
Oh, yeah.
You just have weird taste. You have that. You got Paul Thomas Anderson's got you by the ball sack.
I got the first two letters right. The Ma.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The Ma
and Ex Ma.
Yeah, I think if it were just me doing this bracket, The Master probably would have gone up against The Martian for the final four, and it probably would have gone against Social Network.
So I was looking at the IMDb scores of these movies that we had. It was about the Sweet 16. I think the highest ranked IMDb one is Inception. I think that was at 8.8. Parasite at 8.6. We ended up voting in an 8.0 into the winner right there. So in general, people love The Martian. Ex Machina, I think, might be at a 7.7. Yeah, 7.7. That's very high. In fact, when we got to the Sweet 16, the only movie that was below 7.5 was Hell or High Water of all movies.
What?
Yeah, 7.4. Which I think is too low for that movie. I don't know what people are not responding to that make that score a little bit low. It's still a very good score. Yeah. But like it seems too low for a movie of that caliber. But we had a bunch of stuff in here, IMDb wise, that was 8.0 and higher. So I think we did pretty well, all things considered. There may have been some good taste. There may have been some matchups here or there that went a different way than what the masses would have gone. But I think we did a really good job here.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I'm all right with it. Let me suck our own dick. Wait. Now that is over, we've got some recommends and warns.
Totes amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Like that.
We've had some time to probably watch a few things fairly recently. What do you guys got?
Well, in keeping with the theme of our championship, I have recommends from two directors who were in the final four.
Oh, cool.
My first recommend is Devs. I know that everybody in the world has seen this except me and maybe you guys. I stayed away from it, but I remember in one of our podcasts, when I saw the trailer for this, before I even knew Alex Garland was part of it, I was like, is this Annihilation 2 or something? Because everything looked very Alex Garland in it and everything. Mm-hmm. And then sure enough, his name pops up on the screen. I had not watched this, and I just heard great things about it, and I ended up watching it. I watched it in like a couple days. It's 8 episodes.
Nick on Hulu, right?
It's on Hulu. Nick Offerman is in it. He plays this like kind of hippie, I don't know, Bill Gates type of guy, who is has this special wing of his company called Devs that is dedicated to something nobody knows what they do. And one of the characters at the beginning of the movie, it is kind of like a movie. 8 episodes, all written and directed by Alex Garland.
He wrote it too?
He wrote and directed it. And one of the characters in the movie gets he's basically promoted to this wing, and we get to see the inside of it. And apparently nobody really knows, even the people inside really know what they're trying to find here. But the code that is in there is searching for something specific. And so like the first episode is going to wrap you in because there's so much shit that happens. and like it's one of those things where like, whoa, fuck. I mean, what the hell? I want to spoil it because it's one of those things where it's like, oh shit, this is fucking serious. The movie, I keep saying the movie. It feels like a movie though. The series also stars Sonoya Mizuno, who was the Kyoko character in Ex Machina.
Nice.
And Allison Pill is in it. I always like to see Allison Pill. But the concept that they're going for in this is something that you may have read stuff about this before, but it's getting to a certain aspect of science that's really fascinating. And the movie, I'm going to keep saying it's the movie, and the movie is well shot. It's just beautiful to look at. It's going to wrap you up. You're going to watch that series in like no time at all.
That's crazy. I know you can't say much about it to not spoil it, but I had no idea what this movie / series was about. And the trailer doesn't really give anything away besides it looking like an Alex Garland thing. But yeah, it's definitely got a good cast in it.
All you really know is that Nick Offerman he's you know that he had his daughter died at an early age, and this dev's place that he's built has a giant statue of her outside of it. And you know it may have something to do with her, but you don't know exactly if it is or if it's just a monument to her or what. The monument that they've put in there, I think, is definitely for effect. It's supposed to kind of freak you out a little bit. And it does. There's an interesting thing that goes throughout that series where something will happen and they always find a way to get back to Devs and this big, huge statue of this little girl. And they always seem to find to make it creepier than the last time you saw it in every episode that it goes along and everything. So
that's interesting. That reminds me, you watched the entirety of Watchmen, right, Chris? The series?
No, I only saw the first episode. I'm actually in the middle of getting a bunch of series done that I haven't had a chance to watch. Like I'm in Succession right now. I'm watching all of that.
Oh, and,
yeah.
What do you think?
I know. I remember you saying you didn't like this.
Well, I didn't like the pilot. I've had it recommended so many times since then.
I had somebody recommend it to me, and I was like, all right, I'll go ahead and watch this. And you were right. That first episode and that first season even are like, it's all right. I mean, I've seen stuff like this before. I've seen stuff like this before. The second season is where it starts getting really good.
All right, but but you agree that everybody is an asshole, right?
Yes, it's hard. It is hard to root for these people. There are moments in this show that I'm actually actively rooting for them to fail.
Yeah,
that may be a design of the show. It may not be, for all I know. But there are moments in this where you're like, you should go to jail for this. You should probably not be a free person doing stuff like this. And the show goes along and says, oh, it's rich people being rich and stuff. And it's like, oh, you kind of guys are, I hope I'm already at the Breaking Bad stage, like the season 5 of Breaking Bad with these people. Like just send them all to jail. These guys are fucking dicks.
Nice.
But that said, it's exhilarating when the show gets into the teeth of the wheelings and dealings of like corporations that are this huge with billions of dollars to just blow on anything they want to and everything. So there's some really cool things in it.
Well, just to tie up that point that I made for Watchmen, they do a very similar thing from the first episode for Watchmen of a very unique looking statue of Ozymandias in Watchmen that keeps up through the season. So that's very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
Jeremy.
Are we going to do more than one round?
Yeah.
Because okay. Then my recommend It's going to be a 2007 movie I had never seen until recently called Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
I've seen this.
By Sidney Lumet. Lumet, whatever you want to say.
I think it's Lumet.
So it's Ethan Hawke and Philip Seymour Hoffman are the main players here.
Yeah.
And one of the unique things about this movie is that it keeps popping forwards and backwards in time to show you different people's perspectives leading up to what essentially is this jewel heist. Ethan Hawke and Philip Seymour Hoffman's parents, which is Meryl Streep and Bourne Ultimatum.
Brian Cox?
Not Brian Cox, the other guy.
David Strathairn?
No, the other old guy who waits at the facility.
I'm going to go through all these white guys that are...
Tommy Lee Jones.
It's not Tommy Lee fucking Jones.
Chris Cooper.
Albert Finney.
Albert Finney. We knew he'd land on the old white guys eventually.
It's Albert Finney and Meryl Streep are their parents.
Edward Norton.
They own a jewelry store in a strip mall somewhere in the suburbs of New York. And Ethan Hawke and Philip Seymour Hoffman, for different reasons, are both really in need of money. And they decide to rob their own parents' jewelry store. And it doesn't go very well. And that's really all I want to say about this. Marissa Tomei's in it. She is Philip Seymour Hoffman's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And she is also sleeping with Ethan Hawke.
What, 4 times?
She's naked for most of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman is really fucking good in this. And he's not always played heroes, of course. Like Mission Impossible 3, he's straight up the devil. But he's creepy and skeezy in this movie. Like he's doing lines of coke before his board meetings, and then he's skipping out on afternoon work to go to this like heroin whorehouse that doesn't have sex, but I don't know. It's a weird deal. This is part of why he needs money. But I thought all the performances were good. I was very engrossed in where the story was going to go, partially because of how it jumps around. Like the bank heist gone wrong is one of the first things you see. And then the movie keeps jumping backward in time to show you the days up to that from Ethan Hawke's perspective and then from Philip Seymour Hoffman's perspective. So it's 2 thumbs up for me. And I think, I didn't check, but I hope that's not like an island opinion. I hope it's not like trash that everybody said to avoid.
No.
I remember enjoying
very well received.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in forever, but I remember really, really liking it.
Yeah, the whole thing is pretty scuzzy, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. No,
it almost reminds me of like Uncut Gems and that kind of like
maybe. Yeah, I haven't seen that
and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, other than Meryl Streep and Albert Finney, nobody's a good person here.
Sidney Lumet was doing good work all the way up until the point that he died. Like a lot of the directors who are from the 70s just have lost their way. And just they don't know how to make a good movie anymore. Scorsese is in the group where he can still make good movies, but like Coppola, like sort of forgot, I think, and Spielberg has sort of forgotten.
Rob Reiner,
Rob Reiner, all these guys like just don't seem when they make movies now. It's like William Friedkin can occasionally make something good. In the modern times, but like for the most part, you know, he was doing stuff like Jade and stuff like that in the 90s. But yeah, he was making good movies all the way up until the point that he died, and it's kind of an amazing feat.
All right, I've got one that I think we may have talked about just briefly before, but never really got into, and I'd never seen it before. And Jeremy, you've seen this, I think. It's Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit.
I did see it.
So this was 2014. It was, I don't know what number of Jack Ryan movies this would have been. Hunt for Red October, Clear and Present Danger, the other Harrison Ford one, Patriot Games. Sum of All Fears, and this maybe
it'd be the 5th one.
Yeah, this would be the 5th one. And it's Chris Pine playing Jack Ryan. Now, this is Jack Ryan Origins. This is before Hunt for Red October. This is before anything, really. It's when he's in Yeah, well, actually, he's in school right now. He's studying to get his PhD. He's going into like economics and stuff like that. And he gets recruited by, well, actually, no. He's in the Marines, and he gets as he's been injured and as he's recuperating, he gets recruited by Kevin Costner's character to be a covert operative in the CIA while having a front of a desk job, like just an analyst, like stock analyst job. Meanwhile, he is had a relationship with his former doctor, which was weird, Keira Knightley, who does a very good American accent in this, by the way, and ends up in a real relationship with her. So that part is a little bit drag-ass. Like the setup takes a while for this movie. And in fact, I was watching with my family. My son's on a spy movie kick. And we were like, you know what? Chris Pine, look, he's great. He's great in really everything. Keira Knightley's good. Kevin Costner actually is surprisingly good in this movie. We were like, yeah, whatever. Then Kenneth Branagh shows up as the villain, the Russian villain. And you're like, hey, all right, Kenneth Branagh, we got some gravitas here. Didn't realize that it was directed by Kenneth Branagh, by the way.
Friend of the show, Kenneth Branagh.
That's right. Show. And from there, once it gets into where Chris Pine is called into, where Jack Ryan is called into action to do a mission that has twists and turns and things like that, this gets into serious spy shit. This gets into like Cold War handoffs, pickpocketing, like all kinds of actual spy shit that I don't think I've seen in other Jack Ryan movies. It's usually been big old explosions, and even in Hunt for Red October, it's more about figuring out the problem. It's not like the actual operative spy shit. This is operative spy shit. It's kinetic. It moves. It's really, really good. It's not outstanding. It's not up to the level of Hunt for Red October, but I think it's the second best Jack Ryan movie that I've seen. Ooh, and I didn't realize.
Beep.
What are you going to put above that? Clear and Present Danger?
Clear and Present Danger. I haven't seen Shadow Recruit, but Clear and Present Danger is high up for me.
I would say it goes Red October, Sum of All Fears, Clear and Present Danger, and then Shadow Recruit can duke it out with Patriot Games. Now,
wow. Now, most people would put Patriot. Now you're the Jack Ryan expert, but
expert, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know the most about him of the three of us, but like most people would put Patriot Games as second, right? Like that's super highly regarded. I thought.
I don't know about necessarily that. True.
I don't know about that. At least if you're a movie fan and you think Jack Ryan movies, then yeah, you gravitate towards the Han Solo ones. But if you're like a fan of the books, I think Sum of All Fears is up there pretty high, even though it drastically changes. Part of the trouble for me connecting to Shadow Recruit is that it is not based on any of the books, and it's a completely fictional story. And Tom Clancy was very good at writing tight, taut, political thrillers, and I think there's a good reason to follow the blueprint set by him in the books. So this one was harder for me to get into, despite loving Costner, Chris Pine, and Keira Knightley as actors. It just felt like an imitation.
Did you like Branagh as the villain?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Now, I'm much more interested in this. I think it's Tom Hardy is going to be in Without Remorse, which is, if you remember the Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games, there was a character Willem Dafoe played called Clark, and he's basically an assassin. Liev Schreiber played him in Sum of All Fears. Without Remorse is that character's origin story after some drug dealers kill his girlfriend, and he goes Batman. He goes commando. He starts making his own silencers and targeting the criminals in the city. And Jack Ryan's dad is a Baltimore detective who is trying to hunt down this killer, this vigilante. And that's just been pushed to 2021, I think. But that is one I'm really looking forward to because, again, Jack Ryan as a character doesn't do anything for me. Jack Ryan in a story that Tom Clancy wrote, I'm all over it.
Interesting.
Have you watched any of the Krasinski stuff?
I haven't seen any of it yet. I have this weird Amazon. I have not watched any Amazon original series, and I have no reason for that whatsoever. But I think the hang up there is, again, it's not based on any of the books. It's completely original storytelling.
So your connection to the books is really the main thing that holds your attention to these. Okay,
yeah, I don't care about. Listen, if you made it John Krasinski playing some new character, it probably appealed to me more than calling him Jack Ryan, because I can get plenty of world adventure, ass-beating espionage from Bourne and Mission Impossible and James Bond, and there's something very uniquely American political thriller about Tom Clancy's work.
If you were to go the IMDb route on the rankings for this, Hunt for Red October obviously would be top. Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger both at 6.9.
So Barrett was right.
The Sum of All Fears is at 6.4, and the Shadow Recruit is at 6.2.
I need to watch Shadow Recruit again.
Yeah, but I understand that hang up, especially if you are connected to the books. But Pine is really good in this.
Yeah,
obviously he's always really good. But it surprised me with the operative stuff, because he's freaked out, because it shows all aspects of what I know of Jack Ryan as a character. He gets out of the first situation, literally, Kevin Costner's character says, because he's a Marine. He has no experience whatsoever. He said he's only spent 3 weeks on the farm. Like, he doesn't know. He's freaked the hell out after he does this. And then he gets put into action. And then he has to remember his training. And then he has to remember, there's a scene where he goes through, they're on a plane, and he's like, oh, they're trying to figure out the location of this certain item. And he's like, okay, well, this happens because of this. Go look at this. And another analyst says, okay, well, this is this. And he puts all these connections together, showing his brain. And it's very, very cool, I think.
Listen, I would watch Chris Pine in an all Chris Pine shot-for-shot remake of Psycho.
That replace Marion Crane.
Like, he is at the very top of my list of actors that I really want to watch what they're doing. He's just so charming and engaging. I'm gonna have to give this one another look.
Yeah, right.
The thing that really appealed to me about Jack Ryan is the story that Fred Thompson tells in Hunt for Red October. And I don't know if this was in the book or not, but it sounds very much like it came straight out of the book, about him actually going through military training. Like, the captain of that ship is like, I don't care for this guy wearing, a uniform in here when he's just CIA. And he's like, and Fred Thompson sits there and tells him, like, this guy went through all this bullshit. He did military training, and then he got super hurt doing something. I can't remember.
Yeah,
what it was.
did his fourth year from the hospital.
Fourth year from the hospital. And he's like, well, you can do what you want, Jack, but you might want to give that kid a break or something like that. That little backstory that he tells is a fascinating part of that movie, and it makes you root for Jack Ryan in a way that you weren't before, maybe.
Yeah, that's the thing, man, because in this movie, he's a Marine first, and he actually gets shot out of the sky in a helicopter. That's why he goes to rehab in the first place, can barely walk. And Keira Knightley is his physical therapist. Neither one of them are doctors, by the way, when this movie starts. She's in training. He's ABD, all but dissertation for his PhD. And later on in the movie, after it advances, they're both doctors, and at some point, somebody calls over to the two of them as they're running away, and they're like, "Doctor," and they both turn around and go, "Yes." and it shows like all the facets of it, and that's why it's very fascinating to me. This movie, it's not an A+ or anything like that, but it really, really surprised me how much I enjoyed it.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about Mubi.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
And Mubi's been they've been putting up some movies. They had this trauma thing for the last month. Yeah. And so there were movies like Frightmare and Surf Nazis Must Die on there.
Ooh.
And if there's any, now look, this is one of those rare moments where we're talking about Mubi, and I may have to say that these two movies are bad. You take your chances sometimes. And Frightmare wasn't a good movie. Surf Nazis Must Die sounds like something that should be very fun. Now, if there's anything that the movie is, there is sort of a ahead of its time kind of thing where it's talking about how there's actual Nazis still in America and everything. But they set up this thing where I guess that there was this big earthquake. They keep referring to the quake.
Yeah.
And
it was like 8.7 killed 1 million people or something like that.
Yeah. And I guess as a part of this, there's been these factions of surfers taking over beaches in California.
Yes.
And the bad ones are the Nazis, but there's also like 2 or 3 other gangs that are on the beach fighting for territory, including ninjas. Yes.
Ooh.
And it sounds fun, but it's not.
You're right. This is a very 1987 trauma exploitation type of thing, but it also it has a very black exploitation actually, and just
it does.
general exploitation type of outcome that doesn't justify 90% of the movie, but it does.
No.
That last 5 minutes or so is fun as hell.
It's bonkers. You're right. That last 5 minutes. Now, look, here's the deal. I understand that these movies weren't very good, but I'm always looking for something different. Yeah. And that's what Mubi offers you. And I would never see Surf Nazis Must Die if it wasn't for a service like this. And who knows, it could have been great, but it wasn't. But I will tell you, there was a movie that was good on there, and it was called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Oh, I want to see this so bad.
It was made by an Iranian filmmaker, and I can't call her name right now.
Anna Lily Amirpour.
Yeah. It's a very different take on a vampire flick. And at first I was like, really? They got away with this in Iran? How do you make this movie in Iran? Like, it doesn't seem, but it was made in America. It was just, it's just that there are, I think the director's Iranian, and I don't know if all the actors might be too, as far as I know, but it's pretty clear though that it's shot in another place. It's shot in California, I think. But yeah, it's shot beautifully. The main vampire in the movie is this mysterious woman who is a girl who walks home alone at night and whatever. But it turns into this sort of a love story thing, and it's mesmerizing the way this movie's made and shot and everything, and it's a high recommend from that's on this service right now.
It's hard to make a unique vampire movie anymore, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a vampire who loves herself some like 1980s tunes and everything, and
all right.
And there's like there's a scene where like the main guy and her are in this room together, and there's this big like 80s like soundtrack, playing, but it's a static shot of them getting closer and closer together, and it's great. You wanted to talk about art history?
Yeah, let's talk about art history. So Art History is a movie from a director that I really dig, Joe Swanberg. Who is known for, and I don't think it's even a pejorative term anymore, mumblecore. Mumblecore used to be kind of like a catch-all for any indie flick that maybe didn't have a budget, had kind of some improvised lines, some looseness to the plot, and I think it's become a genre now that I really dig. I think I like the freeform stuff. I like. I've mentioned the show Easy quite a bit. That's on Netflix. That Swanberg helped create, and this is, I guess, kind of middle to early Swanberg, 2011, and it's a very insular story. It's got a cast of 4 characters.
Yeah,
and it's got a very, very simple concept. this director is shooting a sex scene, a sex movie, some sort of short that is two people having sex in different ways over and over and over again, and developing a relationship too, talking about previous relationships, talking about their pasts and where they're at right now. And it's shown from so many different perspectives. It's very dreamlike. To me, it's very European, actually.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is filming his, quote, girlfriend having sex with another actor, but in the auspices of acting. This is in a movie.
Yeah.
So they are literally having sex, and the sex is graphic. But, it's supposed to be impersonal. It's supposed to be impersonal. And he keeps it impersonal. And it's very, very fascinating. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending of this movie, I think, makes it totally worthwhile. I laughed and I kind of was shocked, and I absolutely loved the ending of this movie.
It does have a great ending. It's one of those movies, and I've seen a couple of these over the past few years, where the movie is shooting. The movie is about making a movie, and when they're done with the scene, a lot of times when they're done shooting, the real life, quote unquote, is, you don't know if they're shooting or if they're not shooting at the time.
Yeah.
So like they get done with this one scene, and you see Swanberg, who plays the director in this movie, go off into another room to start editing it, and the couple stays behind, and they sit there and talk. And then it starts to get confusing for them, even because they're in this mode where they're like talking about their past relationships and everything. And then they sort of go, and there's a point where he's like, he almost kisses her, and he's like, oh man, I'm just like really confused. And she's like, yeah, I get it. Blah, blah, blah. It's no big deal. So there's a fascinating like movie within the movie type of thing going on here. And you're right.
It's a bizarro version of Living in Oblivion.
Yeah, it is. It is. But yeah, that is a very interesting movie. Like you said, it's hard to recommend because it's like there's not much going on really, but it's a fascinating kind of look into the psychology of a shoot like this.
Yeah, and intimacy and relationships. The portrait of intimacy and what constitutes what is a violation of the relationship that the director and the actress has is fascinating to me. But if that stuff gives you the heebie-jeebies, it'll give you the heebie-jeebies.
I mean, you guys are making me want to at least take a look. At least in the beginning.
Yeah, there's if you want nudity, you got it in this one. It's there's lots of nudity in it.
I'm not saying I want nudity. I totally want nudity.
The entire thing is a sex scene, basically.
Yeah. The guy who was in Uncle Kent 2, which I saw on Mubi a few months ago, is the actor that's in the in this movie.
He sure does have a stable that he works with. Because one of the other ones is the director of Death Note. Adam Wingard.
Yeah.
He's the assistant director, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, fascinating movie, and all this stuff can be found on Mubi, and I've talked about two movies I definitely would somewhat recommend, if not fully recommend. Two movies that I would not recommend, but still, you have that kind of choice on this service, and that's why we tout it all the time.
Well, this is the time to do it. We're all stuck at home. We're all just kind of hanging out. We're all watching content. This is the time to catch up on stuff. This is a curated service that shows you cinema that you would not get access to otherwise, points you in the right direction or interesting directions. Mubi.com/Cinemasins gets you 30 days free, full month, free of charge, no money, free. That's free. And that's 30 days. And that's a lot of movies. Free. And it's amazing. We talk about it a lot because we love it. We can't recommend it enough. Mubi, MUBI.com/Cinemasins. 30 days free. 30 days free.
We're continuing recommends and
Let's
ones.
do it, baby.
A few weeks ago, I offhand was like, people were just saying that Kingdom of Heaven Director's Cut is just great for some reason. And
oh boy,
it's hard to believe that it's great. And I, of course, have this movie. I bought it a while back. I've got the Director's Cut. It has 3 different versions. It has the theatrical, the Director's Cut, and a roadshow version that has like the intermissions and stuff in it. I obviously watched just the Director's Cut. I don't care about intermissions, but it's like over 3 hours. It's like 3 hours and 20 minutes long. I did not enjoy the theatrical cut of this, which is an hour less. But I had just been hearing it was good. So I popped it in one night, and all that extra time that they put in there makes that movie very good.
Really? Okay, remind me, this is about the Crusades?
It's the Crusades. It's about Orlando Bloom's character, who's basically a nobody, but is taken under his wing by Liam Neeson, who is... I couldn't quite figure this out. I may have to on a viewing way deeper into the future. I'll figure this out, but he could be Orlando Bloom's father, but I'm not sure if that. I mean, at least they have that kind of relationship in the movie where he wants to take him under his wing and turn him into a warrior. And there's a faction of the Crusades that wants to go and immediately attack Muslims and kill them immediately as sort of a preemptive attack. And then there's another group of Crusaders who are like, this is not what we are signing up for. This is not what we want to do. So there's an actual like disagreement in the Crusades as to how they should approach their jobs and everything. At center of the movie is Jerusalem, and the Catholics have control of Jerusalem, and the Muslims definitely would like to have control of it, but there's no real there doesn't seem to be a spark to fight just yet about it or anything. Everybody's sort of keeping the peace. Unfortunately, there's this faction of the Crusaders who want to do these attacks and everything, and they're sort of the spark for this whole thing. The movie basically focuses on Bloom and how he becomes a leader of these people, and some of it, I will say, if there's one flaw in the movie, and this is essentially my first viewing of it because it's the director's cut, and I had not seen the theatrical since it came out. Orlando Bloom himself is not a kind of character that, in the way they've developed him, that I really truly believe he's this group's leader. But by the end of the movie, he's very much in control. And the battle that they have in Jerusalem at the end is fantastic. It's some of the best battle stuff, large scale battle stuff I've seen in a long time. Because there's strategy involved, and there's I will always enjoy a movie that tells you tactics right off the bat, and they execute those things, or there are surprises in it. But those surprises aren't something where you're like, whoa, what the fuck is that? And then they just go to the next thing. This really has them, that battle at the end is great. And there's even the ending of this movie is a great. It's just great. It's just the way that these two sides are battling and what they end up deciding at the end is fantastic.
When did this come out?
2005. It was a 2005 movie, one of those bad 2005 movies. And it wasn't very good. I don't remember. Like I said, I don't remember much about it. I think there's more in this director's cut dedicated to the Ava Green character, who is sort of a next in line in succession to be the leader of Jerusalem and everything. And of course, she's supposed to be married to somebody else, who's in that bad faction of the Crusaders, but she falls in love with Orlando Bloom, and they make the sexy time.
How could you not? It's
exactly.
It's like the 300 sequel.
It's just like the 300 sequel and the Sin City sequel.
Both of which have subtitles I forget. A Dame to Kill For, and what was the other? Rise of the Empire?
Yeah.
Rise of the Skywalker.
Yeah. No, it's The Rise of Empire. But no, I would say one day, if it's like 5:30, 6 o'clock at night, pop this in, watch it, and you will not be disappointed. Obviously, don't watch this like at 10 o'clock at night or some shit like that. Watch this somewhere, like if you have some time to kill. I think you guys will both love it.
Okay, all right, I'm down.
That's pretty strong. You ready for me?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you ready for me? Flipping channels. You know how I like to do. I look for titles I've never seen with actors I recognize, right? I stumbled the other day across a 1985 film starring Rutger Hauer called Flesh and Blood. Now, this is going to interest you maybe more than our listeners, because this is the first English language film for Paul Verhoeven.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wow.
So after this, he goes on to make
heard.
RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, and Hollow Man, all in a row. So this is the one he made before RoboCop. This stars Rutger Hauer and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Jennifer Jason Leigh in this movie is the nakedest I've ever seen a person be in a movie.
Really?
Which is not to say like percentage of nudity, because she's 100% naked in most of the scenes. I mean, on-screen time spent while nude or partially nude. I bet the costume maker for this movie loved whenever her character came up in conversation, because that person didn't have to do shit.
Yeah.
So this is basically set in the early 1500s. I think it's in Europe somewhere. And there's these mercenaries, and they attack a castle, and some double crossing happens, and Rutger Hauer gets double crossed, and the lady he impregnates give birth to a dead baby. And so he's trying to dig a trench to bury the baby, the stillborn baby, and in the trench they find a statue of Saint Martin, and Saint Martin, they note, is the only saint who's depicted with a sword. And he has a sword, and there's this theologian guy among them who decides, because Rutger Hauer's name is Martin, and that this is a sign from Saint Martin that we are to follow Martin, Rutger Hauer Martin, as our new leader. And then the next 30 minutes is them wandering around, and weird shit happens. Like a wagon wheel will fall off the wagon, the statue will move, and the sword is now pointing in a new direction, and they decide it's a sign from St. Martin that they should turn and go in this new direction. So the direction the sword is pointing kind of becomes their guide. Then they come across Jennifer Jason Leigh and this group of people who are on their way to a wedding. Jennifer Jason Leigh is promised to marry this, Prince Huffy Pants. I don't know what his name is. And they get hijacked along the way by Rutger Hauer and his band of people. And they take Jennifer Jason Leigh prisoner because they steal the carriage she's in, and they don't know she's in there. And then they get to this campfire, and they find her, and everybody's like, let's rape her. And so the crew decides to pull off all her clothes, and at the last minute, Rutger Hauer's like, no, you're not going to rape her. I am. And so he walks over, and he rapes her. Then he gets done, and everybody else is going to take their turn. And at the last, right before some guy's about to rape her, Rutger Hauer kicks the fire and starts a fire, and everybody scrambles. And so I guess that makes him a good guy. I don't know. Then they find a castle. They sack the castle, kill everyone in it, take over the castle, and basically the next 30 minutes or so is him and naked Jennifer Jason Leigh in the bath, in the bedroom, all these other various places. Then eventually the guy she was betrothed to, Huffy Pants, he shows up, and he gets captured, and there's this big kind of hullabaloo. She's naked for most of that too. It's a record warn, because I was don't take this the wrong way. I was captivated by this movie. I had no idea where it was going to go. And I'd never seen anything like it. But it's a warn because it's not good. And it's got you couldn't make this movie today because of how casual they are about the nudity and the raping and the treatment of women. It's also very creepy because Jennifer Jason Leigh, she decides that her tactic to deal with this is she wants it. She's going to act like she wants it. So she tries to stop Rutger Hauer from making love to her by saying that she wants it and she loves it. And it's creepy. And I don't think you should necessarily watch this movie, but I kind of think you should.
Interesting. It doesn't sound very Verhoeven-y.
Oh, but see, it is. Even though it's set like medieval, the nudity and the casual, mistreatment of women is very Verhoeven-y to me. It was a trip. By the way, I'm looking at the IMDb, the Wikipedia. Jan de Bont was the cinematographer on Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A young Jan de Bont.
Yeah.
What is so with Verhoeven? Yeah, is his good stuff good? You guys like Starship Troopers. I understand that. I don't. Basic Instinct is just trash. Showgirls, I like more than most, but it's obviously trash too. RoboCop, I guess, maybe his best thing. I think
Total Recall.
Total Recall is his best?
That's in my opinion.
Total Recall is probably his best movie. RoboCop isn't great. Although it has satirical elements that I like, and it doesn't make the movie good, but I like some of the satirical elements of that, of a society that is so violent that they don't even care. It's, nobody really cares.
Yeah.
And Total Recall is great. Basic Instinct, it's not a good movie. That's more along the guilty pleasure type of thing. Because the mystery is trashy fun. It's a kind of movie you'll never see in theaters again. There's something to that movie that I can't put my finger on.
There's something to him. And I think I understand why you say, Jeremy, that you wouldn't recommend it, but you were captivated. Like you didn't necessarily like it. There's a lot of his stuff that I don't necessarily like. I've watched Showgirls multiple times. I've watched Basic Instinct multiple times. I've watched Starship Troopers multiple times, even though I don't like it. Yeah. But there's something that he's got cinematically. His whole thing in an interview that I saw with him recently is he likes to provoke. He's a provocateur, right? And that's his thing. And I guess there's a certain amount of that appeals to, I don't know, pervs like us.
Anyway. You got one more?
I do. I got a big old warn. You remember a movie in 2011 called Hall Pass?
I do. I saw it.
I made it 20 minutes into this movie and I quit. You watched the whole thing?
Late at night, insomnia, could not get to sleep. And I was like, you know what? I need something to shut my brain off to. And so this is Owen Wilson and Jason Sudeikis, Jenna Fisher and Christina Applegate, two married couples who go to a couples therapist, and the couples therapist says, you know what? You guys should have a hall pass, meaning that the guy should go off and have sex with whoever they want to for a week to reinvigorate their marriage because they're not satisfied in their marriages anymore. And I was like, you know what? It's the Farrelly brothers that directed this. Now, Farrelly brothers to me, and maybe to you, Chris, I don't know about you, Jeremy, Farrelly brothers to me are probably 60-40 stuff that I like. Like I like Me, Myself, and Irene. I love There's Something About Mary. I actually really like Outside Providence. That's a kind of a deep cut, but then there's stuff like Stuck on You that I hate. Kingpin is really good, but like there's a lot to like. So I decided to give it a chance. This movie is even worse than you think. So obviously Jason Sudeikis and Owen Wilson can't get laid. They go through all kinds of things where they do drugs, and so they get in trouble, and then they get drunk, and then they get into a fight, and then they're hungover the next day. So they basically waste. It's the worst version of Sideways, that you can get. Like they waste the week in the hotel room. Meanwhile, Jenna Fisher and Christina Applegate are getting it on like mentally with a couple of hotties that that they know. And they're like, well, maybe we should have a hall pass too. They're getting a hall pass. Why can't we have a hall pass? So they're getting interested in stuff like that. Eventually, Owen Wilson meets this super, super hot woman. I don't even know. I think
Nikki Whalen.
Nikki Whalen. Have you seen this movie, Chris?
I have.
And she's somehow interested in him. And so he makes a date with her. But in the meantime, he decides I'm going to take a hot tub soak. And so he somehow decides he's going to read the paper, and he falls asleep in the hot tub, like Jean-Paul in Seinfeld, Kramer in Seinfeld. And he falls asleep, but it's still hot. And so he crawls out, and he asks for help. And there's two guys that come to his aid, but they're both naked. Now, the funny thing about this scene, they're both naked. They show the dicks, right? But there's a black guy and a white guy, and the black guy is near Owen Wilson's face. He's not only hung, he's like semi-turgid in this scene, and it lingers on it. And I'm like, I don't understand what the mentality was for this whole thing. Like it sticks in your mind, but not in a good way. And then, like, Owen Wilson points to the white guy and he's like, hey, can you come over by my face because he's got a tiny micro penis. This is the type of humor that this movie is going for. Owen Wilson ends up turning down Alexandria Daddario. He ends up turning down Nikki Whelan. Jason Sudeikis somehow has fake sex with somebody's mom. It's Alexandria Daddario's mom. Who he has fake sex with, but then Christina Applegate has a wreck. It's a mess. It's terrible. It's one of the worst movies that I've sat through the entirety of.
That movie's terrible. I haven't seen it since it came out. There was actually one scene that came up on cable the other day that I flipped past it. When they're in the house and they're talking and they think that they think they're in a private place and there's cameras everywhere. So they talk about everybody in this real frank way.
Yeah.
And everybody's listening in on them and everything. Poor Christina Applegate. She's in so many bad comedies.
Yeah.
And she's good too. She's got chops. She was, you don't spend 10 seasons on Married with Children and don't pick up. Even though you whatever you may say about that show, she got a lot of practice in on that.
What's her best movie? She's got a movie.
Anchorman. It's probably
Anchorman has got to be her best movie. She was in Grand Theft Parsons, which was good. The Sweetest Thing is probably it falls in the category of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
like a stupid movie that has a little bit of charm because of the two leads. But
I know Jeremy loves it. Vacation, she's in that, and then there's like a couple of others on her resume that she just somehow pops up in. And you're like, oh, man, she's good. Why does she always have to be in these bad comedies?
God, you're right, man. The best is maybe Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yeah. That was sort of her I'm not married with children chick anymore kind of movie.
Man.
Hall Pass is really bad.
Yeah,
Bad Moms. She's like the humorless character in Bad Moms. like, hey, now we got Christina Applegate in a movie that could be good. Let's make her the one everybody hates. Do we have time for questions?
We got plenty of time for questions.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth. I am listening.
What is a good scene where one character must convince another character of doing something that they don't want to do? I was thinking about doing some writing and trying to find examples of this. Thought it might be a good question. Cheers. I love this question.
Yeah, I do too. This came off of Reddit, right?
Believe so.
I think so. Off the subreddit.
I really like this question too. The best one that I came up with, I think, is Samuel L. Jackson trying to get Chris Tucker in the trunk in Jackie Brown.
He's got so many good questions.
Yeah,
why do I got around the trunk?
yeah. He's like, you must be out of your damn mind if I'm going to get in that dirty ass trunk. And Samuel Jackson's like got this whole scenario set up. You know, he's like, I've got to go to these Koreans and I've got to sell these weapons and everything, and I need you to be back in this trunk and, you know, pop up if I need you or whatever. And the guy's like, why don't I just sit in the back seat, or why don't I have the trunk open or whatever? He's like, you can't do that, man. The surprise is 50% of it. And so he's going through all this, and I don't think Chris Tucker's high. Of course, you know, he's like, man, I'm high, I'm home. And Samuel Jackson, he's not going to do it normally, but Samuel Jackson has just gotten him out of prison, has paid his bail. And the only reason he's paid his bail is because he wants to execute him now. But he's very he's very convincing about what he needs him for, and what a giant favor this is for him that will pay off this bail, I guess, debt that he has. If you just go back in the trunk and be the surprise guy at this weapons thing, then that pays off the thing. It sounds plausible, even though it's nonsense. And it's really funny too. Yeah. I mean, those two guys going back and forth with Quentin Tarantino dialogue is fantastic.
God, his dialogue, his whole dialogue in that movie is amazing. That may be his best performance, right? Because he goes from intimidating to like seductive to, you know, sympathetic to comedic to, depending on the situation. He's such a chameleon. The way he talks to Jackie versus the way he talks to Robert De Niro's character, or the way he dismisses Bridget Fonda's character. It's just,
or even the way he tries to, like, that first scene with Robert Forster, where he's like, actually both scenes, when he goes to get Beaumont's bail and when he goes to get her bail, like, he's trying to intimidate that dude, like Tom Cherry. Like, he's trying to say, like, I'm the swinging dick between the two of us, and Robert Forster doesn't even blink, man. No. He's just like, I've seen tougher than you, dude. You're nothing. Mm-hmm. So that's such a good answer. I wish I'd have made it mine.
Yeah, that scene, if there was any justice in this world, Jackie Brown would have gotten a lot more play back when it came out. And I think people were expecting Pulp Fiction Part 2, and they got something else. It was just a mismatch in their mind what Jackie Brown was going to be. And Samuel L. Jackson, this is probably, it's one of his top 3 performances he's ever turned in, and he didn't get nominated for it. That
Pulp Fiction is up there. What else?
Django Unchained. He's fantastic.
Django.
So all 3 Tarantino.
All 3 are Tarantino, yeah. But in Jackie Brown, I think Jackie Brown is maybe the best of those 3. He, mainly due to all the things that you just said, Barrett, because there's so many different moods he's trying to convey compared to what's actually going on inside, and everything like that. I mean, he's funny a lot of times. He's menacing. He's sometimes sympathetic, and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe he's got a little bit of a heart after all. And he's just really, really good. It's one of the most, it's maybe one of the most underrated performances ever.
You shot her? Where'd you shoot her? In the parking lot. No, where'd you shoot her?
I like when De Niro
shot her in the face. I shot her in the stomach. He's like, no, where'd you shoot her?
Yeah.
He asked De Niro if he slept with Bridget Fonda, and De Niro's like hems and haws, and he's like, I didn't know if she was with you or whatever. And he's like, but you still fucked her anyway, didn't you?
Yeah. He's like, well, it was the part where you weren't going out with her that I felt more strongly about. That's one of De Niro's last great ones too.
I agree with that completely. That's completely like not like against type for him too. Like he almost never plays that dumb fall guy.
Yeah.
Do you have another one, Chris, or you want to?
There are a couple others. There's the sort of the break that Woodward has when he's talking to Deep Throat in the parking garage. The whole time he's been talking to Deep Throat in this movie, Hal Holbrook is like, you're going to have to find that out for yourself. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do your own thinking. You're going to have to do this and when we see the journey that Woodward and Bernstein go through in that movie, where nobody's talking, and the people that they do get to talk, they have to go through all these games to get them to finally say the thing that they need them to say and all that. And then finally it gets to that last one where Woodward and Bernstein have gotten the story wrong. They've missed a detail and it's really fucked up the story. And he's got him one more time in this garage. And Woodward is just looking for the answer now. And he just give me all the people at this point. I've got all this on my own. Give me the rest already. And so at some point, Hal Holbrook, once again, he's like, you're going to have to find that out for yourself. And then Woodward's like, look, I'm tired of these chicken shit games. I need to know what you know. And Holbrook, you see a visible swallow when he says that, and he's like, all right, get your pen and paper out. I'll tell you what's going on. And so obviously Deep Throat is playing this game where he thinks that as long as he's not directly giving information, he's in the clear of giving Woodward information. And we all know that's bullshit. I mean, it's this stupid game that we play to try to feel better about ourselves when it comes down to it. Well, I didn't tell them any of that. They found that out on their own. I just confirmed that type of thing. It's the same thing. If nobody's going to see the difference, if you get caught later on. And I really love the fact that he finally wears him down and gets to that point. So yeah, he doesn't want to say anything, and finally he gets it out of him. And I have one other, and it's Marty trying to convince George to do the plan in Back to the Future, where he's going to be in the car. George is going to open the door and punch Marty. And George doesn't want to do it. And Marty's just like, she wants to go with you, man. She just doesn't know it yet, and all this other stuff. And
are you sure I have to curse?
And just have like, you just see that it seems like it may be the first time that he and his dad have had a real heart to heart, even though George is not a father yet. It's a really great scene. That's the other one that I came up with.
Nice. What you got?
I got two real quick. I didn't write it down, but in Argo, where they go before the bosses to get permission to do the Argo plan, and they give that whole spiel about, this is where Cranston's like, this is the best bad idea we've got. That whole speech is great. But the one that first came to me is a movie I've seen 100 times, and that's White Christmas. There's two incidents of convincing somebody to do something they don't want to in one scene, and it's early in the movie after they come back from the war. Their show is a mega popularity show, and they're touring and whatnot, and they go backstage into the dressing room, and they're changing between numbers. And Danny Kaye is begging Bing Crosby to come on this double date with them. And Bing Crosby's like, you only set me up with these idiots. Why is it so important to you anyway? This is where the line that I love comes from, where Bing Crosby says, I'll get around to having a girl at some point. And Danny Kaye says, when what's left to you gets around to what's left to be God, and what's left to be God won't be worth getting, whatever it is you've got left. But basically, he ends up pleading with Bing Crosby, I want you to get married. I want you to have 9 kids. And even if you only spend 5 minutes a day with each kid, that'll give me 45 minutes, or I can go get a massage or something. So they finally argue about this, and he comes to grips with it. And he's like, I'll go on this double date or whatever. 45 minutes going to be enough for you. And he's like, I'll tell you if I need more. Then the guy comes in with their tickets to the train, and it comes out that Bing Crosby has pushed their train date because they got to go watch the Sister Act. This is the Haynes sisters. And now the shoe's on the other foot, and Danny Kaye doesn't want to go. And he's like, a Sister Act? This is boring. There are dozens of Sister Acts. Why do we got to go do that? It turns out that they're the sisters of Benny Haynes, a guy they were in the army with. And a line gets used many times in the movie and is used here to win the argument, and he says, let's just say we're doing it for an old pal in the Army. And that is what wins over Danny Kaye to do that, and then later on to dress in drag and perform the Sisters number with Bing Crosby and a whole host of other hilarious hijinks.
I still need to see this movie. I've got it on Blu-ray recently, so I will try to watch White Christmas at some point.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It is a good one. I got two from the 90s. One is from one of my all-time favorite movies, and one is from a movie that's eminently forgettable. The first one is The Cable Guy. All right? So all Chip Douglas wants to do is hang out with Steven. And so he takes him out to the satellite and everything. He does the big speech and everything, and he comes back, and he's like, oh, we need to hang out and everything. And Matthew Broderick's like, yeah, we should do that someday. And this is after he said, like, by the way, Sleepless in Seattle is on cable tomorrow. You should invite Robin over. She'll come run it. He's convincing him, okay, maybe you could get together. Steven has no inclination whatsoever to ever see this guy again. He says, all right, well, that's really nice. Thanks a lot. And so he does that weird, creepy smile as he's getting out. And he's like, oh, okay. And so then it's that series of, hey, Steven, pick up. Okay. He's got this crazy amount of messages, but he totally ignores him. He ghosts him. He says, Chip, you're out of my life. He doesn't even acknowledge it. He doesn't call him back or anything like that. He has Robin over and he's like, all right, we have the little date and everything. And Chip still wants to hang out with him. So what does he do? He cuts off his cable and does one of the creepiest fucking things of all time. He knocks on the door and he's like, hi. And he's got the cut cable and everything just for effect and everything. And he finally convinced, he's like, what do I have to do to get you out of here and get the cable back on? He's like, tomorrow night you hang out. And he's like, whatever it takes. And that's what eventually makes him go to medieval times, is making
medieval times.
Is cutting that cable, even though it's just literally a switch. All set. Anyway, and the other one from the 90s is a movie called Nick of Time.
Yeah.
1995, starring Johnny Depp and Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken is the bad guy, and Johnny Depp is the clueless businessman. And so it starts off, so the conceit of the movie is that the movie's in real time. It's before 24 and all that stuff. And the events of the movie actually happen in real time. But the way that Christopher Walken and his partner get convince Johnny Depp to assassinate a public figure, a governor, is to flash. They don't even flash a badge. They literally go up to him at an airport and say, we're police officers. We need to talk to you. And he's like, huh? And they're like, come to this van.
This is a good example.
The woman sweeps up his daughter. He's just like, okay, and goes to this van, and they're like, by the way, we're going to kill your daughter if you don't try to assassinate the governor. And within maybe 3 minutes, he's like, okay, and he's off and running. And it's the most ridiculous goddamn thing ever. He's just like, what? He's the most come get in our van. He's like, we're police officers. And he's like, okay. Anyway,
that's a good example of
example of making somebody do something with the easiest possible way. He is the most
kidnapping someone's daughter will do that,
but they willingly go.
That's I'm gonna take it that's a bad thing, not a good one.
No, don't do this. Don't follow that lead. But I'm just saying that
Are you saying it's a good thing in the movie?
Within the movie, yes, it worked out. It was very effective. I'm not saying that what Chip Douglas did was good. I'm just saying that it worked out in the context of the movie.
No. I'm talking about Nick of Time. I'm saying that you like that part of the movie.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious.
It's a good example of what this question is asking.
Correct.
Okay.
That's also kind of
it's ridiculous, but you liked it. That's what you're saying.
You know me and liking ridiculous stuff.
I do. I was just clarifying there because it sounded like you were just mocking it.
No. I think it's very clever because it works very, very well because they pick the perfect mark.
Okay. All right.
Let's do another one here. Question: is the hallway scene from Inception the best scene in a movie since 2010? If so, why not? And what's better? This is very timely considering we just crowned our champion for the best of the last decade. Hallway scene from Inception is dynamite, fantastic. It would not be my pick. What do you guys think?
I have a few that at least rival it, and I don't know if I'm ready to just say these are better, but I can say a couple of these are probably I like these better than that hallway scene. In The Social Network, when Andrew Garfield throws Zuckerberg's laptop on the ground and gives him that whole speech and everything, that scene is incredible. The Raid 2's kitchen fight, which we've talked about a million times, is definitely one of the best scenes of the decade. John Wick 3's Halle Berry and the dogs scene is up there.
Would you put that? That's interesting because I was thinking a lot about John Wick 3 and which sequence would be my favorite of that, because there's a lot that could be in the best of the decade there.
Part where he's in the weapons store or whatever it is, that part, the shooting the bullets underwater and they get stopped is a great
horse scene.
The horses, there's so many good things. But out of that the one that made me the giddiest was that dog fight, because Halle Berry and Keanu Reeves are sitting there like beating the normal amount of ass, and then just when you think there's sort of a dead end, like dogs come into the picture, and you forget about them. So the dogs are occupied. Then the Halle Berry and Keanu Reeves continue kicking ass, and then you're like, okay, all right, and then dogs show up again. They do really well. And then Interstellar's Match the Spin scene.
Oh yeah,
fantastic as well. If we're also throwing Nolan into the group,
it's beautiful.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my answer to the best scene since 2010 is from a movie in 2009. And it's the opening of Inglourious Bastards.
That's valid.
Which I think is still in my top 5 best scenes of all time list. Like, people talk to me about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I've now seen off and on 5 or 6 times. I still don't love it. I've grown to appreciate it more, but people talk to me about the scene at Spahn Ranch and how it crackles with tension. And I think it simmers with a little bit of tension, whereas the opening of Inglourious Bastards crackles with tension.
Even if you've seen it before.
Even if you've seen it before.
Yeah.
Even if you know what's coming. And then for my in-decade answers, because I felt required to give them, the first time we saw Quicksilver do his thing, which I think was Days of Future Past in the kitchen at the CIA, whatever. And then the opera scene in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Those are scenes that I could go on YouTube and watch over and over and over and over.
Yeah, that opera scene is awesome. So good. Because that movie plays on your expectations, because you're expecting him to have to make the perfect shot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he does, but not in the way that you think he does. You expect him to have to kill the right person is basically what they're trying to set up there. And instead of deciding who's good or bad and who I should shoot, he shoots the actual mark in the movie and shoots him in a place where he will get out of the way of the assassin's bullet, is something that I just, oh my God, I love that scene so much. And
yeah, dude, it's
Rebecca
awesome.
Ferguson's legs and all that stuff is fantastic. No, the scene itself is just that, just thinking about things on that smart kind of level is a welcome thing in movies.
Well, I've got one for a different Mission Impossible. The Halo jump from Fallout is just one of the most technologically adept shots that I think you'll ever see. I mean, when we see what goes into it and all the work that was put into it, how many times they did it, the fact that the dude is shooting essentially blind. Right, like he's basically saying, "I'm going to trust my instinct to find what's going on here," and the practicality of it is, I mean, you're rarely going to see it. Maybe you'll see it in the next Mission Impossible, but like you're rarely going to see anything with that sort of technical precision again. So I'd have to put that up there. I also want to mention the sequence. Now, the whole sequence of Gravity is very, very tense, but the one where they first get to the ISS and they've been floating along and she's losing oxygen, but there's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of here's what's going on, that kind of thing. But once they come in, he's like, we're going to come in hot. And all of a sudden the tension just goes up all the way to like 32. And you're taught the rules of gravity in that kind of context, right? You got to figure out what to grab onto and how much force is coming off of this. The fact that when they do open the airlock, like it flies open, it doesn't just like gently open a little bit, you know? So that's something. The last one I say is, of course, I have to mention the Master. The Master for a performance. The scene in which Freddie and Lancaster, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and Joaquin Phoenix are doing the auditing process. I'm doing this in quotes and in Scientology terms, where he says, "You can't blink. You're going to answer me every question that I say." And Freddie's just like, "Fine, that's fine." And it's super tightly shot. It's perfectly acted. It's got some brutal dialogue, and it blew me away. I've watched that on YouTube a million times. It's not necessarily a comfortable scene to watch, but I think it's outstanding. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and you brought up Mission Impossible. I mean, Burj Khalifa scene is going to be in there.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff from Mission Impossible movies that you could throw into this category. All right, well, that'll do it for this week. And who knows what we're going to do after this? We've spent our entire coronavirus quarantine doing this bracket.
It's
so
true.
we have to come up with some other thing that whatever. But what did you think of our winner? What is your winner? Go to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We're also on Cinemasins Twitter, Music Video Sins Twitter, SoundCloud. We're also on Discord. If you want to get on Discord, you can go to our Reddit page and find a link on the right side of the page there, or you can Facebook private message me and I will give you a link there. Anything else we need to discuss?
I think that's about it, baby.
All right. That'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
And he's like, he says, but I didn't take any stolen equipment or whatever. And then he suddenly thinks of it and he's like, and so that scene with Splinter, it's just him sitting there and like thinking, and it doesn't last long. So I did this thing where I just kind of looped it back and forth where he's just kind of, he's sitting there the whole time with the same expression on his face. And you see this whole thing where it's like
Cream in his pants.
Cream in his pants. He's just got this It looks like we made an airplane joke. It's fucking fantastic.
TH6 sound that would make George Lucas scream in his pants. Pants.
He said it 3 times, and the echo 3 times. Like every other echo is like a couple of times. Cream, his pants.
Been a while.
It's been a while. It's that you heard that song that's fuck you and you and you.
Yeah, I hate that fucking song.
I hate that song so much.
I hate the video
really
too.
wanted
I hate that motherfucker. I want to punch his ass every time I see
it. You should watch this one.
Where it's like, and he's got I just figured out this thing that you can do with your finger. That's awesome. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you. I don't care what the fuck you're talking about. Fuck your goddamn piece of shit song.
Yep.
The final sin is, and in this Twilight Zone, we find out what would have happened if Eminem had never met Dr. Dre and was born 25 years later.
It's exactly fucking right. The whole song, I'm just like, why? This guy seems pretty affable. Why do I want to punch him?
Sometimes you just got to cut a motherfucker.
That's right. That's right.
I did laugh at the one with when she picks up the knife.
Oh, that's the one.
Talladega
don't you stick that knife in your leg, Ricky?
Don't you stick that knife in your leg.
That was the one. That was a funny part of the interview. Did you ever see the interview, Jeremy?
No.
The Seth Rogen, James Franco thing. They were they're talking about Kim Jong-un, and like he doesn't. He has a perfect metabolism. He doesn't pee or poop. And James Franco's like, he doesn't pee or poop. Yeah, we look like we are ready. I look a little thin, but I think we always look thin to ourselves, right?
I think we've decided that, yes. Yeah. When I look in the mirror, I look really thin.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what, did I tell you I've lost 20 pounds?
Yeah,
I think so. Good.
From that sickness and from the anxiety and everything.
Yeah, that's like what it's good, but it's not good. It's like that's not the kind of weight loss you want.
No,
I lost 20 pounds and 10 of it was from my dick.
Yeah. Still have a 5-pound dick though.
Cream in his pants.
Cream in his pants. All right.